Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to Third Wave Trades. Today we're going to do an update on GameStop, ticker symbol GME. I didn't do any videos all last week. Unfortunately, I was really busy, didn't get a chance to. So I'm going to make this a slightly larger video and really get into the intricate details of the wave count and what I see playing out on the Wyckoff schematic. I think we are really close to a major rally, right? It's been accumulating and now it's getting to the point where that breakout is happening. All we need is for the volume to come in, and which I think we will see this week, maybe next week. But we'll get into all of that in the technical analysis side of things. But first, if you guys did see the thumbnail, I wanted to go over all of the memes and the emojis. Not all of them, but I think it's really interesting. So, there are people who know a lot more about this than I do. Like, I'm a technical guy, technical analysis guy. But I did come across this, and I found it super, interesting to say the least. And the big thing is like the Kansas City Shuffle, right? That's what everybody's talking about. The Kansas City Shuffle. That's the hint that he dropped, and it's really interesting to see that it's playing out right where the technicals are actually showing that a major breakout is coming, right? So somebody put this together, I think, on Reddit, on the Super Stonk Reddit group, and said that we are here, right? Obviously, last week Chewy had a major run, and right at the same time, Roaring Kitty had dropped the dog emoji post on his Twitter account, right? So a lot of people are speculating that that's obviously tied in to GameStop because Ryan Cohen was I believe the CEO or founder of Chewy as well. I don't know if he's any longer associated with them, but there's a connection there, right? And I think I read somewhere that there's an ETF, and please correct me if I'm wrong about this. There's an ETF called XRT that I'm not sure if they're shorting both of them, GameStop and Chewy, and like somehow basically the surge in Chewy is going to be somehow tied to what's going to happen next with GameStop. So the Kansas City Shuffle, make them look right, and you go left. So maybe now all eyes are on Chewy, or were on Chewy that day, and now something dramatic is going to happen with GameStop. You can see over here in the emojis, the emoji with the dog, and also this emoji, the microphone on the American flag, which may or may not symbolize July 4th, is taking place, or was put in between two sets of eyes. One of them is inverted, so it's like they're looking right and you go left, right? These eyes over here are looking left, those eyes are looking right, and the events that's happening between them is the Chewy incident, which happened on Thursday, and then July 4th, which I believe is this Thursday coming up. So, and interestingly, these emojis were played on a clip over an older music video from Missy Elliott, where this girl is actually doing the Kansas City Shuffle, right? So it happens over here where all the emojis are running, and right where we pass this this sequence of it with the two eyes and the dog and the American flag, that's when the video gets colored. It's all grayed out before, but it gets colored over here, and the idea is that she's doing a shuffle, right? So the Kansas City Shuffle is going to take place at that time. This is all tinfoil hat theory type stuff, but I find it fascinating. And if there is something like this that's playing out behind the scenes, Roaring Kitty is just, he's got to be a genius. The fact that he was on his live stream a few weeks ago and saw himself go from being a billionaire on paper to down, what was it, like $300, 400 million, in the span of a day. And he was just smiling the whole time and not worried at all. It kind of gives the impression of somebody who is completely confident in his play. And not only that, but then he doubled down buying more shares. You guys all know this stuff, right? I normally don't cover this stuff, like I said, because I'm a technical analysis guy. But again, it's hard for me to ignore it completely when I see all of this stuff lining up with the technicals as well. So I just found it fascinating. Obviously, next week is July 4th. And we'll see if this American flag emoji with the microphone represents that, or and it's going to be the start of the sequence, right? Because then we look at what's coming next then. So if that's the Kansas City shuffle, what comes after that? We have fire, we have this explosion, and then we have cheers, right? That's normally how Roaring Kitty signs off. When he's leaving, if you've seen any of his older live streams, he would always say cheers and wish everybody well. So it's like usually, I think he did that after the last run up. So it looks like, how the flames could be maybe shorts burning, right? Short seller, Citadel, or whoever's shorting, they're up in flames and the stock explodes, right? There's fireworks, which would be really symbolic on 4th of July or right around there. So, it looks like we're on the tail end of this thing, right? If this has any credence, if this has any legitimacy, we are getting close to it. And that's also what the technicals show. So I just wanted to show that to you guys. I found it really interesting. It's really fascinating. And we'll see how this plays out. But again, if you guys want more about this, definitely go on the Reddit groups and where people know a lot more about what's playing out with this. And if you guys if you guys do know more yourselves, please, I'm really, really curious, really interested. Please drop a comment and explain what you guys think, these emojis mean and where we are in terms of all of this. All right, so now let's get into the technicals. There's a lot that I do want to get into with the technicals, and I think the first thing I want to do is just do a recap of the larger picture first, right? And not going too much into detail about that because I've talked about it in older videos, but just to lay out the technical analysis thesis, right? So this is a weekly chart, and on the weekly chart, you guys can see for the past 3 years, we've been in this phase B accumulation or reaccumulation schematic, however you want to look at it, right? Because we're coming from this low, we ran up, and then we've been accumulating, like I said, or reaccumulating over here, right? And then finally, after 3 years of that accumulation process, you got this spring move, which is back in March, right? When we hit a low of around $10, which gave us our jump across the creek move, right? This is our creek, these dotted blue lines that we were trading in this range. And we jumped across it, in a very, very strong fashion. We ran all the way up to around $65. And then we had the back up the edge of the creek move where we came back to test the top of that channel, bounced off of it, and then, we're kind of consolidating. And that it's weird to think of it as consolidation because it's so volatile and we're ranging from $18 to $65. But on if you zoom out and you look at it, that's exactly what we're doing. Just like we were accumulating within a range of $80 to as low as $10 over here. Now us kind of consolidating above that breakout is going to be the last step before we go on our major uptrend, which would be in phase E, right? So phase C, we got the spring. Phase D, we get the jump across the creek move and we consolidate. We go back up the edge of the creek, consolidate. And phase E should then be our uptrend move where we start trading in we really just start moving in an uptrend, higher highs, higher lows, right? So this right here, this larger picture is kind of what gives me the confidence in what I'm going to say is playing out on the smaller time frames, right? So you can also see we are now trading above the 30-week moving average. That's this red line. Let me clean up some of these drawings because it can get a little bit confusing. All right, so you guys can see over here that we are now above the 30-week moving average, which according to stage analysis is the initial break for stage 2, which again symbolizes an uptrend. And we got that break with an increase in volume that is significantly different from the lows in volume that we had throughout this entire period of accumulation. We also got the break with a break above 0 on the Mansfield Relative Strength Index. So those are all checks that we need for a stage 2 move, right? So in stage analysis, we are in the beginning of stage 2. In the Wyckoff accumulation schematic, we are now in phase D, which should then lead to phase E, which is the uptrend, right? So that's the larger picture, right? We got increase in volume, got a break above a consolidation or an accumulation range, and we're above our 30-week moving average. So that's the bigger picture. That's why I'm very confident in the move that's coming next. All right, so the next thing is then let's take a look at the wave count. All right, so, and I'm going to talk about the wave count now from the aspect of this spring move, right? So when we hit the lows of $10, this jump across the creek move is what I want to discuss now in the wave count. So the thing about Elliott wave count is that we know that when a stock is uptrending or downtrending or moving in or making a major rally one direction or another, when it's no longer in a consolidation phase or trading in a range, it moves in waves, right? And Elliott wave theory, we call them impulsive waves. So when we're in an impulsive scenario, right, we are going to look like no one wave is going to move in isolation. There's going to be another series of waves that are going to follow it. So in an uptrend, we're looking at a 5-wave impulsive move. So if you guys can understand, this is what we are expecting, a 5-wave impulsive move. And the move that we had up to $65, this right here, this is only our first wave, right? So that is literally the same as this move. We still have this 3rd wave and this 5th wave, which are the moves going in the direction of the overall trend. What we just completed now, or pretty much getting close to completing, are these pullback moves. So it gets very tricky because there are waves inside the waves. But ideally, what we're looking at is something like this, right? So I talked about this in the last video. The red is the overall picture that we're looking at, right? So that's our 5-wave move. And then within the red wave count, we are in that 3rd wave, right? Starting from the lows of $17. And this is going to be the most impulsive rally, right? Which is why I believe, the whole Kansas City shuffle thing is aligning perfectly with where we are in the wave count. We should get a 3-wave move in this 3rd wave, and a 5-wave move in this 3rd wave. And we already finished the 1st wave, and I think we are finishing the 2nd wave within this red 3rd wave, right? So once we get this 3rd of 3rd started, it's going to be a very, very massive move, right? It's not going to be what you guys see here. I just drew this for illustrative purposes. It could be higher, it could be lower, and there'll be ways for us to check that out. But essentially, this is the overall picture of what I think is going to play out. We're going to get a massive rally, and then another, really long, slow pullback, just like we've been getting since we hit that high right before Roaring Kitty's stream, right? We've been basically in a long, slow, drawn out retracement. And I think that's pretty much over, and we're going to start getting the massive rally. The rallies are going to happen fast, and the retracements are going to be long and slow and drawn out, right? So that's the overall picture. All right, so if we zoom in a little bit, this is where we stand now with this current wave count. In the last update that I gave you guys, I was saying that there were a couple possibilities. We had this point of invalidation at the 2279 mark, and that actually has been invalidated. As you guys can see right around here, we actually closed beneath it. So in Elliott wave standpoint, this kind of rules out this as a point of invalidation. And what that tells me is that this was not the beginning of our wave 2, but our wave 2, we can say, is now beginning from here, from this low, right? And that means this correction was a longer WXY correction, and now we are beginning a rally, which should be the start of our third wave right? So if I go into detail about this, the beginning of this rally, now you guys can see, is we have a 1-2-1-2 scenario, and we should be getting a strong rally up to like maybe the $35-$40 region, right? So if I draw this out for you, right? So from that low where we hit the point of invalidation, now we got a strong impulsive bounce. We did it with volume. So there's 1, 2, 1, 2 is what I think we just finished on Friday's trading, right? So it could be Monday morning we get a very, very strong rally to go higher. There is the possibility that this wave 2, I think it's a low possibility, but I think there's still a possibility that this wave 2 is still yet not completed, and we have room for one more leg down, in which case this would just be an ABC instead of a 1-2-1-2, and then we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But this move, if this does happen, should hold above $17, which is our last point of invalidation, right? It should hold above 1786. If we break 1786, it's not the best scenario. I don't see that happening at all. Like I said, I think this is a very low possibility that we will get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. But as soon as we finish that, then the massive rally is coming, right? So it's either we have already started it, this is a 1-2-1-2, and we will get a massive rally starting next week, or there is the room for one last leg down in 5 waves, which would be the completion of this second wave, and then the massive rally will start, right? I believe, based off of the Wyckoff schematic in a smaller time frame, which we'll go over in a second, that we've already started it because of the volume pickup and the spring move. All right, so that's where we stand with the wave count. Now let's take a look at the Wyckoff schematic. Here we are, right? This is the accumulation that's happening right towards the tail end of that second wave correction, right? So we had our phase A, kind of where the trend gets a change of character, slowing down to the downtrend, change of character. In phase B, it's a series of tests. Secondary test as a sign of weakness. Here is our creek move, and then this is the spring move that I'm talking about. So this actually happened with a decent amount of volume, right? So if you see over here, we had low volume throughout, and then we hit this low. We got a high closing bar on the candlestick with volume, and since then we've also had, it's been basically a change. Now the moves going up have a higher volume, and the moves going down has lower volume, right? So again, that brought us now to phase D. You guys can see, so we had the spring, we went pushed to the higher, right, with this strong candle, strong volume, pushed to the higher end of this accumulation range, came back for our last point of support in phase D. We actually pushed out of the range in phase D, which is a sign of strength, and then this would be our last point of support where we come back into the range. And now what I'm expecting is a break out of this range in phase E, right, would be a little bit of consolidation here and then push higher, right? That makes sense in terms of our wave count as well. Now this accumulation, right, so we're pretty much in phase E of it, is a smaller or a local accumulation in a larger accumulation, right? So that would be this red box over here. That's what we just looked at. Now that local accumulation, like I said, that is a local accumulation of this larger accumulation. So in the larger accumulation, we're still in phase D. Once we get that breakout over here, right, this phase E breakout of the local accumulation, that should bring us to around here in phase D, and then we should get to the top of this channel, right, in phase D of this larger accumulation. So again, I could see us getting to around that $33 range before we come back for our last point of support in phase E of the larger accumulation, and then the same thing that we just saw play out is playing out, will play out in the larger time frame, right? So it's fractal. The same local accumulation that's happening here will lead to a phase E breakout on the smaller time frame, which is a phase D move in the larger accumulation, right? Over here, these are just some potential areas where we could see a little bit of pullback or choppiness, right around the middle of the range, because essentially it's buyers and sellers battling over, the price of the stock, right? So look for the middle of this range to present a little bit of difficulty around that $28, $29 range. Maybe get rejected the first time, come back, and then push through, consolidate above it, and then go higher. But essentially, this is what I think is going to happen next week, is that we will get that phase E breakout, right? And then we will be in an uptrend move. And that uptrend move will be the phase D move. So in phase D, we want to see price get to the top of the range. Sometimes if it's a really strong move, it will actually break the range and then come back in, or just bounce off the top of it. So that's essentially what I see playing out from the technicals. I really do think, because it's aligning with the third wave move, that we're going to see a strong rally. We got that spring. The only thing that we need is the volume to pick up, and I think that will come in. I think you can see from over here how we've basically been losing volume the whole time while we've been accumulating. So essentially, sellers are exhausted, right? Even the spring move was not a very large spring. It wasn't a shakeout. It wasn't too large of a move. So it looks like sellers are exhausted, and you're going to see a large volume come in from buyers who are going to take control of this of price right now. So I could see us getting to the top of this range, which is around 34, maybe even break past it, $35, $38 region, consolidate there, and then push higher. All right, so that's kind of what I'm looking at. Again, price targets, once we get past that, we have a fair value gap around this $49 to $60 area, which I think for a short-term target is very possible, like within the next 2 weeks, next 2 to 4 weeks, let's say. And then maybe you fill it, you come back a little bit. Essentially, once we get past this phase E, past like the $35 range, we are in an uptrend from here. So then it's the last point of support, sign of strength, last point of support, sign of strength, last point of support, sign of strength, etc., etc. And again, because that goes in accordance with our third wave move, once we get into the uptrend, it'll be easy to analyze it in terms of wave count. All right, guys, so just to wrap it up, this is what I think is playing out. In the larger week time frame, we are getting into this phase E uptrend move, and then on the smaller time frames, that's exactly what's playing out as well. It coincides with the third wave move. And again, if you guys are aware of what's happening outside of the technicals with Roaring Kitty and all of that, it all is coming together, in my opinion. So I think we can really expect a massive rally soon. And yeah, if you guys got any comments, questions, please leave them down below. If you guys found the video entertaining or helpful, useful, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell notification icon to get all my videos as soon as they are out. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll be back with more. Peace.